What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Bleed. It's Al Mack, and we're back. It's Bellator 257. We got the results, the recap of the main card. We're going to go over that, and then we're actually going to touch on some other very important things in the fight game. Al Mack, how you doing? What's going on, man?
Pretty good, man. This will be the first time that we're covering something that's not the UFC. So, like I mentioned last week, with our freedom comes these great opportunities to we're here on a Friday night for once. So, yeah, man, let's get into it. Let's get into some non-UFC MMA. I'm pretty excited.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the first fight of the night on the main card was Paul Daly versus Saba Homasi. And oh my goodness, this was a good fight for as long as it lasts. Paul Daly finds the knockout shot, the TKO, 1 minute 44 seconds into round two. Oh man, Al, this was highly irritating for me, man. I took the dog shot on Saba Homasi. I said, Paul Daly, he's too old. This is his retirement fight. And Saba Homasi showed a lot of improvements. Saba Homasi basically had this dude out of there 1 minute into this fight, ends up not being able to do it. We've seen fights probably stop sooner. We've seen a lot of fights stop sooner, honestly. Nonetheless, Paul Daly, the veteran, stays in it, survives the barrage. I think we see a big adrenaline dump from Saba Homasi. You know, we see this in MMA, man. When a guy really hurts somebody, they empty the tank trying to just get him out of there, get that spectacular finish win. And when it doesn't come, we see a guy who, literally was just beaten within an inch of the fight being stopped. He recovers. He picks up the pace. Now he's dealing with an exhausted fighter. Paul Daly finds that big shot, puts Saba Homasi down. The underdog bet does not cash. Paul Daly gets to ride off in the sunset with a win. Although, come on, let's keep it real. We know how these retirements work in MMA. They never last. Al, did you have something on this one?
Yeah, I had Paul Daly in a parlay, but I also had the over, which was not
that's too bad.
Over 1.5 rounds, and it was like a minute into the second round, so it almost cashed. But I was kind of excited because usually when the announcer always says like "don't blink," you know it's like it's like a jinx, and you know that fight is going to go to the distance. And this was a super entertaining fight, though. This is a classic Paul Daly, just war. And yeah, if I had the other side, I would have been like, that would have been super frustrating because, yeah, we've seen fights stop for much less. And that was something. I was definitely having the parlay. I had an over in the Daniels fight from earlier on the card, so it was, I needed Daly to cash the parlay, and for a good 35 seconds there, I thought I was finished because he was getting destroyed.
Yeah, but, Al, I hold on. I don't want to interrupt you, but you talk about this consistently where you go, right when the fight started, I knew I was going to lose. Is that the feel you had right away on this one?
Not right away, but when the ref was hovering, and like, yeah, we've seen fights stop for much less. And even in the main event, which we'll get to, I thought Daly was doing, as far as what do they call it, intelligent defense, there wasn't that much. So the referee was definitely giving him the benefit of the doubt there. So yeah, that was, I guess, a bad beat, as a Homasi backer, so it is what it is.
It's how it goes in this game, baby. It's never over till it's over. And even sometimes we watch somebody clearly win a fight and the judges go, you know what, just for fun, let's give it to the other person. So this is the wildest sport. So yeah, man, Paul Daly, I guess we don't really have to worry about what's next for him. He is donezo. And Saba Homasi, I don't know, man. Dude is still exactly who he's always been. Gets in there and bangs it out. If he don't take you out soon, you're probably going to win. So, all right, next fight on the main card, Vita Arteaga versus Desiree Yanez. Vita gets the win. Al, I got to keep it real, man. I was doing another live stream on my man Lock of the Nights channel. I did not get to see a lot of this fight. However, the glimpses I caught looked like Vita was in this one. What you got to give me the rundown here. I don't even really know if this fight was close or if it was dominance. How did this one go, Al?
It was a pretty close fight, and Yanez caught an illegal knee. She had her, the finger down against the cage, and she caught an illegal knee, 2 illegal knees, and the referee stopped the fight and deducted Aretiega a point. And that's such a stupid rule. It's such a stupid rule. They need to change this. They need to change this. And like, I only wanted to talk about this fight for like a brief second, but now that we're into it, if they're going to have the, need to a down opponent, I would only understand it if like all 4, like somebody was on their hands and knees. You know what I mean? I hate this rule. It's so dumb. They need to get rid of it. But it was a close fight, and I guess she won it. It was 29-28 on one judge's scorecard minus the 1 point, so it was 28-28.
Okay.
And then it was a 30-27, so a 29-27 majority decision. It was a close fight. It's similar to what was that fight that we saw kind of recently? Shit, I can't remember. But it was similar to another women's MMA fight where we saw a point deducted and it went to the decision. And it's
and the cheater wins.
Either fighter could have won this fight, and the woman. But I guess the cheater wins based on the stupid rule. So it is what it is. Let's keep talking about it. Let's move on to a different fight.
All right. Well, yeah. Did you have a bet on that last one? I had nothing on that fight.
Yeah, I had the under, and
no.
And I thought it was a decent play because both these girls come out swinging, and at one point it looked like Yanez was going to finish her earlier in the first round, and then it just became a clinch game, and then that bet was dead. But it was like a less than a half unit play, so I thought the value was there, like plus 280 under 2.5. It is what it is. That's what I'll make that bet most of the time with two women that could throw. And I thought both of them were going to come out trying to get the finish.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, not the highest level stuff going on there. We actually had a lot of fights on the prelims that I think were probably a much better matchup. But nonetheless, that's what Bellator gave us. All right. So co-main event, Cory Anderson with the ground and pound TKO over Dovletdzhan Yagshimuradov. Man, I took the shot on Yagshimuradov. I said it was as simple as this. He's going to test the chin of Cory Anderson, and I don't know if Cory Anderson's going to be able to hold up. Honestly, Yagshimuradov did not test the chin all that much. Had the spinning back kick, but guess what? It didn't really connect with the head. It didn't really test the chin of Cory Anderson. It hit him in the neck, so don't get me wrong. That's, dialed back maybe 3 or 4 inches. Probably does knock the dude out, but nonetheless, man, Cory Anderson fights a good fight. Yagshimuradov did a good job of fighting off the takedowns early in the fight. Like, I was honestly super surprised at his ability to really sprawl out, really dig for underhooks and keep Cory Anderson off of him. And honestly, the fight was pretty close early on. Eventually, Cory Anderson, the chain wrestling, eventually gets Yagshimuradov down. And when he did, man, he had no problem transitioning to dominant positions, raining down ground and pound. Cory Anderson looked pretty good, man. Yagshimuradov, I just don't know if this guy's it. Classic. He's going to be one of these guys with the classic puncher's chance. I even said before I bet on this guy, this is not really the type of guy I back who it kind of feels like has a puncher's chance. But, man, against a guy like Cory Anderson, anybody with a puncher's chance has a good chance. If Cory Anderson loses the fight, he gets knocked out. Yagshimuradov, that's what this dude does. He goes out there and knocks people out. Props to Cory Anderson backers. He did it. He held up. Offensively, wrestling didn't look great, but eventually got him down. Did what he does. Once it got to the ground, though, absolute wipeout domination. Cory Anderson lands like 100 ground and pound strikes at least before they finally call it. Cory Anderson's moving on in this light heavyweight Grand Prix. Al, what did you have?
I had Cory Anderson in a parlay in this one, in a small shot on him to win by decision, which was pretty disappointing. But yeah, like he had that double jab that he would either feint or throw or set it up for a takedown, and it was a thing of beauty. He looked polished. He looked almost like I won't say the best performance we've ever seen, but he looked really good. And I think he put on a little bit more like bulk since the last time we've seen him. He looks like a little bit bigger. I think that is his only third stoppage win since like 2017. So that's pretty impressive. I think his last stoppage win, besides the previous Bellator one, was that I think what's his name, the Brazilian
Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, yeah, that knockout, and I think he was an underdog in that fight, and it was like plus 550. So that was like 2019. So yeah, I guess I kind of overestimated Yakshi Muradov here. Just when it got to the ground and pound, Anderson, he was just overwhelming. He was pinning his arms down. He was doing that. He was doing the type of thing that Yakshi Muradov would be known to do, to other guys. And now Anderson goes on to face Ryan Bader in the semifinals. So what do you think about that one? I know they used to be training partners. I actually like Anderson quite a bit in that spot. Interesting what the line will be there.
Yeah. I mean, I got to see the odds. You know what I mean? I really don't know. I really don't know what to think, man. Like, it's a super interesting matchup. They know each other well. They both have like the exact same style, right? Wow. I really don't know. I think it's probably due to, when we see two high-level wrestlers, two really good offensive wrestlers get in there, much like Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, a lot of times it turns into a striking battle. And, I probably lean Ryan Bader in that case, but I don't know, man. I just need to see some odds. I'd imagine Bader should probably be the favorite. I'd probably put it Ryan Bader minus 175. I think is probably fair. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually opened up like maybe minus 225. But I think Bader should probably be the favorite here, and I probably like Bader to win. What do you think?
If Corey Anderson's the underdog there, I think I got to go with Corey Anderson just because he looks different. He looks different than he has in the UFC. He looks like he's bulked up a little bit more. And I bet against Bader in the fight with Machida. And there's just something about Bader where sometimes he's on and sometimes he's not on. And, when he has that, he has that like dip down left hand when he starts to like look for the knockout and stops focusing on his wrestling. He just gets careless. And I would have that fight closer to a pick'em. And if you were going to give me plus money, I would probably have to take Anderson in that one. But again, we've been over this before. Like, this is just off the top of my head, off the top of your head. So I don't know. I'd have to look in it more, but just off, my gut feeling would be Anderson there.
Okay. Fair enough. Makes sense. All right. So that takes us to the main event, and oh baby, did I like this one. So I totally had a bet on Vadim Nemkov. This dude just is really coming into his own. Vadim Nemkov, 5-round unanimous decision win over Phil Davis. I mean, first off, I actually didn't get to hear the audio on this fight. Do you know how this fight was scored, Al? Because in my mind, I said absolute worst case scenario, Vadim Nemkov, 49-46, possibly even 50-45. I think one judge had it 48-47 Vadim Nemkov. I don't know where you find two rounds for Phil Davis here, but Vadim Nemkov, this was a guy this was a rematch, right? And Vadim Nemkov slowed tremendously in that third round of the first time they fought. And I think a lot of people who were backing Phil Davis said, if Phil Davis would have had two more rounds that night, he almost certainly would have won. He clearly won the third round of the first affair. Why shouldn't he win the third round here, fourth round here, fifth round? Sure enough, the fight starts like that. Vadim Nemkov comes out hot, clearly wins the first round in my eyes, clearly wins the second round, but then it's that third round where things were, essentially where the fight was going to be won or lost, right? Vadim Nemkov, man, shows improved pace, improved cardio, improved gas tank, fight IQ improvements, right? We saw a lot of big throws, big energy moves in the first fight that we didn't quite see as much of. And honestly, it made him that much sharper, that much better with the technique. Vadim Nemkov comes in here, man, and impresses me greatly against an ultra high level dude, a consistent contender, and a guy that, hasn't lost by unanimous decision in years. I mean, look at Phil Davis. The last time, first off, every time Phil Davis loses, it's split. Like, it's literally the guy's barely ever losing. This is a super impressive win for Vadim Nemkov. Very happy to have bet him here. Al, what did you think? What did you have?
Yeah, I had it was a good one, but it was also disappointing. I had Nemkov in the parlay with Anderson, and then I had Nemkov inside the distance. I thought that there was some value there just because Davis had never been finished. But yeah, I learned quickly, Davis has a heck of a chin. He's very good at staying upright. He's got that Usman-like balance, or he just, he'll get clean hit on.
Can we see the move? Hold on, Al. We got to see the move. Let me see the move.
He'll get hit clean in the chin, and he just does, he just finds a way to absorb it. And then, but although Nemkov was able to drop Davis at one point, hitting him with that crazy uppercut, and it just got to the point though where I feel like Nemkov wasn't able to extend. As somebody betting on the inside the distance, he was able to keep him, keep him in his range, and he had that, it was almost like you were playing UFC 4 or UFC 3, where he was just doing that double jab, overhand right, double jab, overhand right, double jab, overhand right, and it was working. He was just not really landing that overhand right flush, but that double jab was just, it's what won him the fight. But I feel like he just wasn't able to extend those combos to be able to get the finish. And I watching this fight in about the third round, I realized that he was just content to just keep fighting, that 3-shot combo over and over again because it was working. And, the fact that the scorecards with, I don't see how judges could have given Davis the 4th and the 5th. That's a little bit ridiculous. That's just, it's just, I don't know what they're watching. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. Like, but at the end of the day, Nemkov, if he fights, this is the thing. So Nemkov has to fight the winner of, Yoel Romero or Anthony Johnson.
That's gonna be the shit.
Yeah, and I feel like if Nemkov comes in with that, spamming that combo, especially against a guy like Romero, I think he's going to be in trouble. What would happen if Yoel Romero ends up being the Bellator Light Heavyweight champion? That would be pretty hilarious. But because I think that style, Anthony Joshua is a hard hitter, but we haven't seen him in quite a while, in 3 years. So, but Yoel, Yoel is only like a year or like 13 months removed since his fight with Adesanya, which wasn't great, but he's still active.
A lot of people thought he won.
Yeah, and that was and
I didn't, but
did. It is what it is. Yoel could have probably, I don't even know. I can't even comment on how ridiculous that fight was and what his game plan was, and it just looked like he was in there for a paycheck or whatever. But yeah, besides any of that, with Romero, a motivated Romero, I feel like against Nemkov, I just feel like that style, it works really well against a guy. And don't get me wrong, Nemkov is he's very well rounded. He just didn't use his wrestling very much tonight because he really didn't have to. Davis didn't, for some reason, didn't really lean on his wrestling.
Yeah, and I got to tell you right now, man, if there's people out there that backed Phil Davis, it definitely wasn't because you thought Phil Davis was going to stand with him for 5 rounds and try to kickbox. Like, I would be, dude, okay, for real, had I bet Phil Davis, thank God I didn't, thank God I bet Nemkov, I would be tearing this dude up right now because, I mean, I hate to say it, Phil Davis went out there and gave Nemkov a fight that he almost couldn't lose. I mean, that was the Nemkov plan, to keep this fight standing unless I so choose to take him down and put Phil Davis on his back, which is what we saw, honestly. We saw Nemkov being the guy out there that was, working for takedowns, hitting takedowns at times. That was supposed to be the Phil Davis path to victory, and the guy just goes out there and goes toe-to-toe with the far superior striker at range. How are you ever going to win a fight like that? Phil Davis. I mean, at the same time, I'm not going to say it was a bad performance from Phil Davis, but it wasn't good. You can't have a good performance when you go out there and give your opponent exactly what they're working for. I mean, they're not even working for it. You're just giving it to them. If Phil Davis was going to win this fight, he was going to grind Nemkov down with a heavy wrestling style and win this fight on the scorecards by holding Nemkov down, especially the later the fight went. And, you know, in that regard, it reminds me quite a bit of Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling, right? Aljamain Sterling was supposed to come in there and dominate Petr Yan with offensive wrestling. He was going to hold him down. He wasn't going to be able to deal with it. Instead, we see Petr Yan dominate absolutely on the feet. And then Petr Yan's the one hitting takedowns, trips, dominating on the ground as well. Man, I like this kid Nemkov a lot. Man, just high fight IQ, great coachability, strategically sound, comes in here with a solid game plan, executes, improved, you know, literally shored up every weakness we saw in the previous matchup. There's just not much more you can ask from a kid in a spot like this. Vadim Nemkov, I'm very high on, and I cannot wait to find out if this guy's going to be fighting Rumble or Romero. Either or is going to be an absolute banger. Let's get it going, man. I'm getting pretty hyped. This Bellator Grand Prix is definitely piquing my interest here. I like what we got going, and I think this thing could catch fire. Let's get some more Grand Prix rolling. You know what?
Like, the thing about it is, you know, the UFC, they end up doing this half the time anyways. They might not actually call it a tournament or whatever.
You're absolutely right.
Looking down at it, and it's like, okay, this guy beat this guy, so they fight each other. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you have like these title eliminators and you promote them as title eliminators. I think in all aspects of MMA, I'm not a big fan of like how Bellator used to do it, where you'd have guys fighting twice in one night. I think that's a little bit amateur, but I love this. I think this is great, and this is how you set up. You know, you can bet on futures in these type of things too, where you know you can bet on a guy to win 3 straight fights, basically, kind of like a parlay. And I think it's awesome. I think, but I will say this about this tournament specifically. I think whoever comes out of the side of the bracket here with Romero, Anthony Johnson, and now Nemkov, you know, I think one of those 3 is going to win this tournament, because I think, I guess so. Nemkov, well, Corey Anderson, Bader. Yeah, I like, if I'm looking at either Bader against one of those 3 guys and Anderson against one of those 3 guys, although that would be a great fight. Corey Anderson against Yoel Romero, or Rumble, or Nemkov. That's a great fight, but I gotta favor, you know, the other side of the bracket. I gotta favor the Russian and the other 2 guys, because I don't know. I think I feel like Bader. I don't know what it is. I'm not high on Bader, and I feel like if Anderson gets through, you know, that's going to be huge. And if they're able to get this done before the end of 2021, and they're able to have maybe the final of that be one of the first events with fans back, you know, Bellator might have a very solid 2021 as far as, you know, being on Showtime and basically competing with, especially the next fight. The next fight's basically a UFC fight under the Bellator brand.
No doubt. Yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. I'm ready for it. So, Al, that pretty much wraps up Bellator 257. What do you have in mind you want to take a look ahead on?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the biggest thing, you know, in fight sports this weekend is, you know, the clown show, the freak show that is Ben Askren and Jake Paul. And yeah, I don't know. I especially after today, seeing how Askren looked on the scales, you know, I was pretty ready to, you know, put a wager on Ben Askren, but after seeing him not look in that much, you know, he wasn't in very good shape. I don't want to bet Jake Paul, but I will say this: I think I think if you look at Askren's, and I'm comparing MMA to boxing now as far as betting results, but if you look at Askren's last 4 fights, all 4 of them went under the betting total. So there's the fight with Robbie Lawler. I think that ended early, right?
Yep.
Like pretty early. And then Jorge, obviously 5 seconds.
The fastest KO in UFC history.
And then the Maya fight ended, I think, like early in the 3rd round. So, and that was a fight that was like an under 4.5. So, and then I think before that, his one championship fight, the 4th one against Aoki, that one also went under. And then you look at Jake Paul. Jake Paul has had 2 boxing fights. Both of them were finished. I think the first one that he had was finished very early in the 2nd round. I think they were both finished. No, sorry. The one against Nate Robertson was finished like 56 seconds into the 2nd round. And then his first fight, he knocked the guy out in the 1st round. So you got between their last 6 professional fights between MMA and boxing, all 6 of them have cashed on the under. So, I think I'm looking right now. You got under 4.5 rounds prop at -105, and then under 5.5 rounds prop at -120. I like both of those. I think Askren, you talked about it, you tweeted about it, how like if this fight goes the distance, you got to think that the judges are going to favor, their cash cow, their meal ticket in Jake Paul. Triller is basically putting, their money behind this guy, this attraction. So I think unless, if Askren really wants to win this fight, he's going to try to finish him. He's not going to be content with this fight going 8 rounds, unless he's just there to get a paycheck, and who knows what's going on, because that's the nature of what we're betting on here. Like, who knows what the actual motivation is. But if Jake Paul is going to win this fight, I think you're getting a way better line on an under 4.5 rounds or under 5.5 rounds at -105 and -120, because if it goes past that, he might win by decision, but it's going to be very ugly at that point. It's going to be a clinch war. It's going to just turn into constant clinching and constant, the ref having to break them up, like, old guy boxing basically. And if it gets into the, late into the 6th round, 7th round, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be, it's going to be, you'll see punches out of the exchange, like out of the breakup and everything like that. But beyond that, I think if Jake Paul wins this fight, he's got to do it quickly. And I feel like if Askren, there's something there with Askren that we might not have seen. He might have improved quite a bit, but the way that he looked on the scales, he looked terrible. So it's like, if I'm picking, I can't pick a winner. I really like the total here. I like the unders, and I can't pick a winner. What do you think?
Dude, let me tell you what I think. I think if there's anyone out there who's confidently on anything in this fight, if there's somebody out there who's going Jake Paul round 1, if there's somebody out there going Ben Askren by decision, max bet, that's somebody you need to discredit, because listen, I break down a lot of fights. I feel like I have a very good formula, a very good read, even if I don't. Even, usually, because I always try to say this, and this is who I pick, right? I never try to waffle and say, so I really don't have a pick. Sorry, it's a pass. You know what I mean? I'll always at least make a bet here, right? Or I make a pick, excuse me. Honestly, dude, I don't know if I can do it, because you're right. Ben Askren not looking good today on the scales is enough where literally I'm like sitting at this point where I'm like, Al, I don't know what bet in this makes any sense at all. Like, I just feel like when I, think about this fight, like I wish right now I had a graphic I could hit and you could see like formulas like flying around my head, you know what I mean? As I like do something like this and look off into the space. Dude, I can't quantify anything in this fight. We haven't seen Jake Paul go deep into a fight at all. I have no idea what the dude's gas tank, cardio, pace, output's going to be beyond a 2nd round. I know he hits very hard early on in a fight, but that's all I've seen. We don't have any other evidence. Then we're talking about Ben Askren, who's never been in a boxing match, right? Like, this dude's just never done this sport. That'd be like if you were like, listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now, LeBron James is the best soccer player on the planet. Like, what are you basing off of? Listen, the way that guy runs up and down in basketball down the court translates directly. Just add a ball, he kicks it in the net, done deal. I'm telling you. That's what I mean. Like, anything we have on Ben Askren, I just feel like it doesn't even apply. You know, like, we can look at this guy's UFC fights, but it's just such a different animal. You know what I mean? Like, I can't come up with any confidence. And I hate to say it, I finally decided today when I saw Ben Askren on the scale, because I actually said, I did a video a day or two ago talking about this fight. And I said, I think that Jake Paul's most likely path to victory is finding that early KO. And I still think there's a very good chance that happens. But if this fight goes deeper, I at least know Ben Askren can fight rounds. He can go deep into a fight. We've seen it, right? Now, don't get me wrong. It's wrestling. He's laying on top of the guy. He's not standing on his 2 feet, continuously having to throw punches, right? It's a different animal. But I said, I do think Askren might have a shot if we see Jake Paul, begin to gas the power fade and he's there to be hit. And Askren, regardless of how bad his technique is, just starts touching the guy up, right? I just don't know, though, man. I feel like I have no evidence to support a prediction in any way. Here's what I'm going to do, Al. This is what I think the move is. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to look to live bet the midway point of this fight. I think by the midway point of this fight, I'm going to have a good enough read on, if Jake Paul, if I think he's going to be able to maintain that output, maintain that power throughout the fight. Who's won, however many rounds, I'll be keeping score in my own mind. But Al, it's like you even said, man, mentioned in my tweet earlier, I feel like Ben Askren, but I mean, first off, let's just acknowledge that legitimized boxing at the highest level, is one of the most corrupt, horrible judged sports on the planet. And we're coming from MMA, dude. You know what I mean? We know about some shitty judging, and boxing's like, listen, you guys ain't seen nothing yet. Check this out. You know what I mean? So, and now we're talking like gimmick boxing. So take that like shitty judging and just put like an exponent on it, dude. Like, it's parabolic. I really do think there's a chance that even Ben Askren could win this fight 6 rounds to 2, 5 rounds to 3, and they still go, you know what? That was a close fight. Jake Paul wins. We're going to keep this money train rolling. So I don't know, dude. It's a freak show fight. I just don't understand. I don't have a strong read on anything here, Al. And I don't really feel like I ever could. I would almost feel like I would need insider information and somebody telling me, yo, Askren's taking the check and he takes the dive in the third. You know what I mean? Like, other than that, dude, I have no idea what's going to happen here. I'm not sure if either guy going into that ring tomorrow really has any idea of how it's going to play out. I will say this, though, man. I could see this getting very sloppy, very crazy, very wacky. But dude, it's a freak show, and it's a freak show. It's entertaining. I'm going to sit back, try to be entertained. And if I see an edge live, I'm going to hit it. But other than that, dude, pre-fight bets, I just got to pass, dude, because I don't have a clue, man. Maybe you can help me find some clarity here.
Yeah, I just think I was looking at his previous fight odds results, and I know that he cashed at like plus 1,300 in the first fight to win in the first round. Jake Paul did, and I think he was like 9-1 to win in the second round in the second fight. So, I mean, there might be some. You have to just be approaching this recreationally. There's no way.
Yeah, it's exactly, dude.
I have to say that I've convinced myself now that the best bet right now is the under, because even if it gets crazy and maybe if something happens and the ref calls it off, if there's a takedown or something nuts, you know what I mean? God. And it ends up being not even a note, because we've seen this. How many times have we seen this now? If it's a disqualification, the duration of the bout is, it's still
right.
It's not a no contest. They still count it. So I think if this fight goes, I can't imagine this fight going into the the later rounds, because these two guys, based on what we've seen in the media, which is, who it's the fight game. So who's to say how authentic any of this is, but these guys don't like each other. Right. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be scrappy, and I think it's going to be a cat fight.
Yeah.
Basically.
And don't get me wrong, Al, deep in my soul, would it be nice to see Ben Askren, a guy who wasn't really even good enough to be in the UFC? Wouldn't it be great to watch him go out there, punch like an absolute idiot, but yet finish this dollar store Conor McGregor? Oh my God, that would be phenomenal. So either way, you know what though? I wouldn't be too sad to see Ben Askren, eat a monster shot and get KO'd either. I'm just gonna try and sit back and be entertained. You know what I mean? So I hope it's a good fight. I don't know how to answer any questions here. Let's just leave it at what it is. I will say this though, man, we're probably going to be talking about more of this stuff because, look we're here talking about it right now. You know what I mean? Other people are talking about this, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. This isn't going anywhere. It's probably going to do decent numbers, and who knows? So hey, get back with us in 2 months when we see Jim Carrey fights Steven Seagal, So I don't know, man. Al, is there any other looking ahead you want to do besides this freak show fight?
I just think really quickly, if we're going to talk about, we'll be here tomorrow for UFC Vegas 24. I think that fight, Whitaker Gastelum, I think it's quietly it quietly could be one of the best fights of 2021. I think my opinion, I think this fight goes the distance. I think it's destined to go the distance. I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be an awesome fight. Like I'm super pumped for this. This is everyone's excited for this fight, but it's kind of being overshadowed by the clown show.
Oh no, man. And, can you imagine being Robert Whitaker and being like, people don't even know I'm fighting this weekend.
But no, he loves that, man. Like, he loves that. I feel
you are right though. He's that type of guy. That's kind of his thing. He doesn't like the limelight a lot. So, and you know what? That another thing that I've yet to hear people talk about, Robert Whitaker's talked about how he doesn't really like the fanfare, the press. These super small, which at this point, super small audiences, because we do have some people in the stands, right? Even though we're still in the apex, that kind of is his vibe. You know what I mean? The more low key, the better for Robert Whitaker, right? This fight actually might have a different feel to it. Say if this were one of those fights on, one of these upcoming UFC pay-per-views where we're going to have a packed crowd. So, dude, I'm with you though. I think this is going to be a great fight. Both guys are highly skilled. Both guys very dangerous. I think I'm with you though. I see this fight going a little bit later. I don't think we're going to have an early finish here. Both guys are absolutely capable. But I'm feeling a war, man. I'm feeling this is going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a pretty back and forth affair. I think it's probably going to be fairly close. And, I said this earlier this week, I'm picking Robert Whitaker to win. I think he will win. I think he should win. I think he absolutely should be the favorite. But I do think it's a little bit wide. And I think that there is some value on Kelvin Gastelum. I would line this fight much closer, but like all things considered, I'm I am on Whitaker. So what do you think of this one, Al?
Yeah, I feel like you nailed it. And if you look at his last two performances, the fight against Till, which I thought was his best performance of his career, and then the fight against Cannonier, another great performance, and both of them without a crowd. And he talked about how he just wasn't feeling up to fighting Adesanya in that 60,000 person stadium in Marvel Stadium in that fight in Australia. He had like pre-fight jitters and stuff like that. So, and that was I think he's only ever been stopped in his career twice, and that was one of them. So I just feel like if you look at Gastelum too, he hasn't lost by stoppage many times, besides that fluky Jack Hermanson submission, but at least recently. And I feel like this fight is destined to go, into the later rounds. I think this is going to be just as an MMA fan, I think this is going to be awesome. And I feel like if you're betting this fight, You can't go wrong. You know, I think there is some value on Gastelum, but I feel like the real value is on Whitaker by decision, or if not that, the over, and if not that, the fight goes the distance, because I feel like this is just going to be one of those classic, both guys are going to be game, and I just feel like based on what we've seen from Whitaker, recently, it's going to be hard to finish him, and Gastelum is extremely evasive. He's got really good head movement, and I feel like it's going to turn into that type of how the fight was with Till, where they're just going to be standing in front of each other, measuring each other out for a lot of it to start, and then they're going to start throwing. And I feel like it's going to be great. The rest of the card isn't that spectacular, but this fight is epic. This could be, like I said, don't be surprised if we're talking about this fight being the fight of the year after like tomorrow night.
Wow. That's some serious stuff. All right. Well, Al, should we wrap this up? We're coming back tomorrow night. Let's not drag this on too long, because we're going to be back here in about 24 hours exactly. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Bleed. He's Al Mack. We will be back with you tomorrow night. Al, is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, just keep it tuned to the both of us, because we'll be around for, all day tomorrow for whatever madness that goes down. And it's a great day for fight sports tomorrow.
No doubt, man. We got all sorts of stuff going on. The freak show, the real deal UFC, tons of action, tons of bets, tons of gambling, cashing checks, snapping necks. He's Al Mack. I'm Bleed. We're out of here.